Few novels understand the seduction of revenge as intimately as The Count of Monte Cristo, because Alexandre Dumas doesn't just write a story about a man seeking justice, he writes a story about watching that man slowly disappear inside his own vengeance until almost nothing of who he used to be is left standing. Edmond Dantes begins this novel as a genuinely good man, young, in love, about to become a ship's captain, betrayed by nothing more than the petty jealousy of three men who decided his happiness was worth destroying. What happens to him afterward has captivated readers for nearly 2 centuries, not because revenge is thrilling to watch, but because Dumas is brutally honest about what it actually costs. That honesty is exactly why this book has the power to change how you think about your own grudges, your own wounds, your own quiet fantasies of getting even. Dumas doesn't moralize at you from the sidelines. He simply lets you watch, in exhausting, magnificent detail, what 14 years of obsession does to a human soul, and lets you decide for yourself whether the revenge, however satisfying it looks from the outside, was ever actually worth what it cost the man carrying it out. Today, we're pulling 5 lessons out of this towering novel about betrayal, justice, and the long, corrosive shadow of revenge. 1. Injustice left to fester becomes obsession. Edmond Dantes is arrested on the happiest day of his life, framed by 3 men whose motives amount to little more than jealousy and ambition, and thrown into the Château d'If without ever standing trial. He spends 14 years in a stone cell with no explanation, no appeal, and no hope of release, his innocence irrelevant to a system more interested in protecting powerful men's secrets than delivering justice. By the time he finally escapes, the gentle, trusting young sailor he once was has almost entirely been replaced by something harder, colder, and singularly focused. Dumas is showing us something psychologically precise here. Injustice, when it's left completely unaddressed, doesn't just fade quietly with time, it calcifies. Given 14 years alone with nothing but the memory of his betrayal, Dantes doesn't heal, he sharpens, turning every hour of suffering into fuel for a purpose that will eventually consume the rest of his life. The novel asks us to notice how dangerous an unresolved wound can become when it's given enough silence and time to fully take root. 2. Revenge requires you to become someone else entirely. When Edmond Dantes finally resurfaces years later, he doesn't return as Edmond Dantes at all. He arrives as the Count of Monte Cristo, wealthy beyond imagination, mysterious, impossibly composed, a completely reinvented man built for exactly one purpose. The transformation is so total that people who once knew him intimately fail to recognize him at all. To execute the elaborate revenge he spent years designing, Dantes essentially has to erase the person he used to be and construct someone entirely new in his place. This is one of the novel's most unsettling insights. Revenge doesn't simply add cruelty to your life, it demands a kind of self-erasure first. Dantes can't pursue his elaborate plan as the trusting young man Mercedes once loved. That man would never have the patience, the coldness, or the sheer will required to spend years orchestrating other people's downfall. To become an instrument of vengeance this precise, he has to first stop being who he was, and Dumas never lets us forget the strange, lonely cost of a transformation that thorough. And if a story this sweeping, this psychologically rich is already pulling something out of you, you don't need to track down the physical book to experience it for yourself. You can listen to The Count of Monte Cristo as an audiobook through Amazon Audible, at work, during your commute, or in any of those moments in the day when sitting down with a physical book just isn't realistic. Right now, you can try the subscription for practically nothing, and I'll leave the link down in the description if you'd like to give it a try. 3. Even justified anger can destroy people who never wronged you. As the Count's meticulously engineered revenge finally lands, it doesn't stay neatly contained to the three men who wronged him. Villefort's household collapses catastrophically, ruining innocent members of his family who had absolutely nothing to do with the crime committed against Dantes years earlier, including a young son whose death Dantes never intended and clearly never wanted. What began as a precise, targeted plan against three specific betrayers gradually widens out into something much messier, catching people in its wake who share none of the original guilt. This is where Dumas' portrait of revenge turns genuinely devastating, rather than simply satisfying. However justified Dantes' original anger may have been, revenge rarely stays as surgical as we imagine it will be when we're only picturing the person who wronged us. The novel forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Once revenge is set into motion, it tends to ripple outward far beyond its intended target, and the people caught in that wider blast radius are often as innocent as Dantes himself once was. 4. The line between justice and revenge is thinner than it feels. For most of the novel, Dantes is utterly convinced that what he's doing is justice, a righteous correction of a wrong that was never punished by any court, delivered by his own hand, since no one else would deliver it. But as the devastation of his plan accumulates, particularly once innocent lives are lost, even Dantes himself begins to waver, questioning whether he ever had the right to decide sole-handedly exactly how much suffering his enemies deserved, and who else might reasonably be swept up in delivering it. Dumas lets this doubt creep in slowly, refusing to let the reader stay comfortably certain that Dantes' cause was righteous simply because his original grievance was real. The novel suggests that justice and revenge can look almost identical from the inside of the person seeking them, and that the only real difference between the two often comes down to restraint, a willingness to stop somewhere short of total destruction. Once that restraint disappears entirely, what started as a search for justice can quietly become something closer to the very cruelty it was meant to answer. 5. Peace comes only when you set the weapon down. By the novel's final chapters, having finally completed the revenge he spent years constructing, Dantes doesn't feel the triumphant satisfaction he might have once imagined. Instead, he feels the weight of everything his revenge actually cost, including people who never deserved to be caught in it. What ultimately brings him something resembling peace isn't the completion of his revenge at all. It's his decision afterward to finally set it down, to help the Morel family who once showed him kindness, and to open himself to love again through his relationship with Heidi. Before we close this one, if watching Dantes wrestle with the true cost of his revenge stayed with you, remember that you don't need the physical book to experience the Count of Monte Cristo for yourself. The full audiobook is available through Amazon Audible, so you can experience Dumas' sweeping, unforgettable story during your commute, at work, or in any of those moments in the day when sitting down with a physical book just isn't realistic. The trial subscription is practically free right now, and you'll find the link waiting for you in the description below. In the end, The Count of Monte Cristo isn't really a story that glorifies revenge, even though it spends hundreds of thrilling pages letting us watch one meticulously carried out. It's a story about everything revenge quietly demands in return: your identity, your innocence, sometimes people who never deserved to be involved at all, and about the fragile, hard-won peace that only becomes possible once you finally choose to put it down. Dumas doesn't tell us revenge is never satisfying. He simply insists it was never actually the point. Remember to subscribe, comment, like, and see you next time.